I am Bill Consoletti. I'm the Georgia Forester's Georgia Division historian.
Okay.
And I've got with me today Mr. Eley Frazer. And he is going to be our latest in a series of foresters that I'm going to be interviewing for the video archives of the Georgia Division. And this is an effort to record for the future people in Georgia who've made Georgia forestry great. I think it's an important piece of history that we're putting down for all ages, or hopefully as long as we can read these tapes and transfer them to the next type of media that comes along in years. And let's get started here. This is Eley Frazer. And Eley, would you tell us where you were born and when?
Okay, I was born July 31st, 1927 in Buffalo, Alabama.
Where is that?
It's 3 miles north of Lafayette, Alabama.
Oh, okay.
It's with post office and cotton gin and cotton warehouse and everything was there.
Was that a family farm?
We've long been in the family since 1840.
My goodness. That's wonderful. Is it still in the family?
Still in the family. That's the we still own it.
Wow.
We own 120 acres of it. I don't know how much is left. It came through my grandfather. My grandfather and his 4 brothers were raised on that place. The old house is still standing. But my grandfather built a house down a hill there, and it's there. He had a grits mill, a little bit of store, and a syrup mill. We did all kinds of stuff.
That's great. And it's good that it's still in the family, you know.
Oh, yes, sir.
Where did you go to school?
Lafayette, Alabama. I did, grade school, Lafayette, Alabama. I went all 12 grades. Kindergarten and 12 grades in Lafayette.
All right. And would you go to college?
Well, I went the first 2 years to Auburn. I found out where I was and transferred to the University of Florida.
Went from Auburn to Florida.
Yes,
I didn't
sir.
know that.
Yes, sir.
Why'd you change?
Well, I was not exactly happy with Auburn, but after summer camp, and then my brother and sister and I were all in college at the same time. I'd come out of service.
Oh.
And they were just 2 years and 3 years younger than I was. We were all in school at the same time. So we transferred when they started at the University of Florida, and I was transferred down there with them.
Oh, okay, I see.
And my other grandparents, my mother's grandparents, out in Cross, Florida, which is just 15 miles out of Gainesville. So I spent the summer down there working on packaging.
So you said you were in the service?
Yeah, in the Navy.
You were in the Navy. Oh, okay. Well,
I joined when I was 17. I was out when I was 19. I carried another LST from Seneca, Illinois, overseas and brought it back.
you carried what overseas?
LST,
Oh,
landing ship tank.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh. So what ships were you on?
1120. USS was LST 1120.
Oh, that's the way it was known as?
Huh? Yep.
1120. All
Yeah.
right.
We carried,
Pacific?
huh?
Pacific?
Yeah, we went, of course, through the canal to the Pacific. We stopped at Okinawa and dropped off pontoons, and then went to Cromaretta. We had a tank deck full of ammunition and whatnot. Put them on cruisers and battleships and all, and we were getting ready to invade Japan. We were camouflaging the ship and everything. When the war was over, there was about 300 ships there. You never saw such fireworks.
Wow.
But then we carried some of the first troops to Hiroshima after the bomb. They wouldn't let us off the ship in Hiroshima. We just spent overnight. Then picked up troops and carried them to Nagasaki. I walked around the atom bomb site in Nagasaki.
You did?
Yes, sir.
Hmm.
It was clean as this floor, that perfect circle.
I was in Hiroshima in 2005.
What?
And I went to the bomb site.
Well, you know what I mean.
What's left? I mean, they left one building. They have one building that was leveled. When it wasn't leveled, it was basically cleaned out. All that's left is the shell. And that's the only building that's left from 1945.
Yeah.
And then they have a peace park right nearby and pictures. It's all kinds of pictures.
Well, my memory of it is it was a perfect circle. And it was just clean. There was stuff along the edge. It was shattered a little bit, but it wiped out.
Yep.
I mean, it was clean.
I hear you. That's what it'll do. Well, that's interesting. Bill Barton was in the Army, and Bonner Jones was in the Army, and you were in the Navy.
Yep.
Chuck Place was in the Marines. So I had all you guys tell us about your experiences.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so when did you get out of University of Florida?
1950.
Okay. And you want to go over your career from then?
From then on, well,
Yes, sir.
well, it was interesting. While I was in school, I had a pulpwood crew, a logging crew,
Oh,
and that's where I learned a lot. Well, I did also haul poles. Like a lumber trading company, they had a over the one put all the poles in the Jacksonville ballpark, and other places all the way down the state and whatnot. We had.
so what was the company you were working for while you were in college?
Well, me.
Oh, you had your own company?
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Well, we couldn't get county exec, but we did. Also, all three of us, and mother moved down there with us. We had a little 7-Eleven like store.
Oh. So you were an entrepreneur right from the beginning. That's cool. Okay. I'll just let you go over your career any way you want, Eley.
Well, it was started. I got logged a couple of years after I got out of college and whatnot. In 1953, I went to work for the state of Florida at Blackwater River State Forest. They have a very knowledgeable operation here. Best lonely forest it was, I guess, and still is, except the storm blew most of it away. You know, several years ago, but I've forgotten that big hurricane that hit there. But just Munson is northeast of Milton, about 20 miles, and that storm went right through there.
I think it might have been Dennis.
Huh?
I think it might have been Hurricane Dennis.
Yeah, I expect it was. I don't know, but I rode by that several years back, and it just wiped that up. It made me sick.
Oh. It's terrible.
But then I worked for them. I had a third of the forest, 60,000 acres of it, and 180,000 acres of forest. We had one beautiful place. They let me do then the people resented, had been resettlement property. They resented it, and they burned those woods off every year whenever they could.
Yeah, that was the way that it was done throughout the South.
Yeah, but I mean, this was wildfires, you know, and like them. For example, Bruton, where I went to church, a Presbyterian church in Bruton, about 20 miles north. So I go on Easter Sunday in bed, and kids would go with me. Didn't have a phone or call, of course, but I hit it, the phone, they rang it in the house. I'd tell Betty to answer the phone, tell Mr. Cook I'll be there in a few minutes. Maybe I had to change clothes and be all day, and maybe the next day folks or something. That was wild. And I got beat up for catching some of them, carrying them to court.
Really?
Yep.
Jeez.
Well, they didn't beat up that.
Well, you said it was resettlement. The Blackwater Forest was based on resettlement?
Well, it was a resettlement, you know, whatever they call those, that, you know, the government took sizable areas
Oh.
and started farming or whatnot on them, but I don't know why they took that. But those people around there, you know, the open cattle range, and they resented it
Okay.
terribly. And they used slow matches and take a piece of rope about 6 inches long and tie matches around to it. And maybe put a 20-penny nail in it, and then they'd light that rope, and they'd throw them out down the woods, they'd be gone. But they just, they did it every year because part of it was resentment, I'm sure, and part of it was, you know, cattle raising. I expect a big part of it was resentment. Because they didn't like the government owning that.
Interesting.
That's quite an experience.
So you were a forester there, or were you the manager there?
Forester. No, there was 180 out of 3 foresters. We had 3 separate areas.
Okay.
The nursery was right there too. Right there.
Okay.
Well, we had that, you know, we had the whole thing. I mean, I was 45 over the whole 185 acres.
I'll have to go there sometime.
It was from Crestview, Milton on and up, and then it was going on down there. Crestview, Milton, Bruton.
Okay. I know a fellow who, at the University of Florida, who works in the Milton campus. Milton, Florida, University of Florida campus in Milton, so I guess they use the Blackwater Forest probably still now.
Right. That's right.
Okay.
In fact, they built me a house. I went down there. So Betty got there. I lived in the old house on the place, but they built a house right there across my nursery in Munson.
All right.
But that was 3 good years. Those well, my assistant there he'd been there for years and years, you know, when they had the logging and all and everything in there. It was quite an experience.
And then you moved on to St. Joe Paper?
No, I moved to Albany.
Oh.
I heard that St. Joe had bought that track in. Reynolds Brothers Lumber Company. I had about 30,000 acres out of Albany there. And I do want to start my business, a business. And Mr. Rosasco and had a logging, had a sawmill land in Milton. And he wanted to set me up in business, and he had a house down on the coast, said you can live in that. And Mr. Rosasco had just half of this, but it was half water, I don't need. And I wanted to go to Albany anyway, so when they bought that, talked to St. Joe, and they let me come over out. I worked with them from 56 to 59, but they let me work 7 days a week, and they let me work on the weekends too for plantations and whatnot around there, so I had a good start.
What was your position? What was it?
St. Joe?
Yeah.
I just forced, I don't know, you know, I did get to meet Ed Ball. In fact, Ed Ball came to our house one time, and whatnot. I did get to meet him. He was a character.
So with St. Joe, were you a procurement forester as well as a lands forester?
Well, no, I was a land forester primarily.
Oh.
I did procure, I bought, helped to buy land. We bought land almost all the way up to Newland.
Oh.
Particularly around Buena Vista in that area. They sold all of that.
Yeah.
But was involved in that, and some procurement, but primarily, see, they bought Reynolds Brothers had that acreage, and we cut, I expect we cut enough timber off of it to pay for what they paid for it, a lot more than that. But hardwood, and primarily pine in Munson, and primarily hardwood over there. And John Putnam came, spent some time with me, spent about a week with me down there, get me set up on hardwood until I knew what I was doing. We'd cut the logs, I'd make them haul them out, and I'd grade them. We sold them on the grade and whatnot.
All right.
It was great learning.
I have a tendency to skip around when something
All right,
comes in
sure.
my head about what you said earlier that I want you to talk a little bit more about.
Yes, sir.
When you had your own company while you were in college
Yes,
and
sir.
you were logging, what were some of the tools you used then?
Used a wheel saw and a hand and a truck.
A wheel saw?
Wheel saw. Well, when I moved to Alabama, we began to change the chainsaw there, but they were. And actually, I had one or two fellas when I was in Alabama worked with the crosscut saw.
Okay.
This was, but down there while I was, we was all wheel saw.
I'm going to have to plead ignorance.
In hand load, huh?
What is a wheel saw?
It's the one that got the saw up there, you know, and push it around. You ain't never seen one?
Uh-uh. And you just push it up to the tree?
No, you push the wheel saw, and then you've got two big wheels there, and push it, and got an arm out there and runs, and then got a saw about like that. On the end of it, you push up there and cut down the tree.
Okay.
Then of course you leave it by hand, and maybe cut the top out of it with a wheel saw, but mainly cutting them down. And all of it was loaded by hand. Now I did poles and logs. I did cross over them with a little tractor, you know, cross over with load. But we haul poles out of there, and then we haul logs to sawmills.
So you cut logs and poles out of the...
Logs and poles and pulpwood.
And pulpwood.
Yes,
I was
sir.
going to get to, what are the lengths you cut it to?
What?
What were the lengths? Of the
Well,
log?
whatever length that log, a pole, you know, whatever length they were.
Yeah.
But then, of course, we put the tops in pulpwood, and the let's see, the saw timber, the pulpwood were all, 5 feet, 2 inches, I believe it was. We loaded on the cars.
The rail cars.
Huh?
What would fit on the rail cars?
Yeah, that's what I
5 foot,
said.
2
You
inches.
had 2 stacks, you know.
Yep.
It was 5'2", I think is the length of it.
Yeah.
Car would hold about 15 cords, 12 to 20 cords, the size of the car. The trucks. Sometimes I had some crews, I had 4 men to the crew, 2 in the woods and 2 on the truck, you know, working and whatnot. And sometimes we loaded, my better crews would load a car a day by hand. I'd go out there and try to help them, they'd make me go to the top of the tree, they'd start at the bottom. Willie bean, catfish, and holes in, oh crap.
Ray.
Huh?
Ray.
Ray. They really worked. The only thing was, I'd have to go get them on Monday morning and make them go to the woods. They wouldn't do much on Monday. They'd be hungover.
Hungover from the weekend.
If I didn't get them on Monday, they'd be hungover on Tuesday, so I'd get them on Monday. But sometimes I'd get them out of jail.
I've heard the stories. That's
But they were great. Unbelievable what those men could do. Now it would be, I'd order a car, they'd go in and check it out. They was loaded. You can't be loaded, that car just came in here yesterday.
That's interesting. Okay, so now we're about up to 1959.
Yep.
I think.
That's, when I started business, 59, 60,
And that's when you started your...
forestry business.
Okay. That's F&W?
F&W. Frank, well, it was just me until about 62. Frank Weatherby came along and joined me. We went to Weatherby Frazer then. And Frazer Weatherby, rather. And then he didn't work. He just got out of university, so he didn't work long before he got off in the pecan business. No, we had a pecan business when I was separately. But I got out of that. I got in the ag business, I got out of that.
So when you first started your company, was it just with the idea of being a forestry consulting company?
Yes, sir. I was
Okay.
very fortunate that I knew particular plantation owners and others around Albany there. And it just, Yes, an opportunity was just right, because, you know, they didn't have any. Those buyers wanted to kill me because I was selling lump sum, and I wouldn't tell them what the minimum bid was, and stuff like that, you know, and I marked, because I marked the, cruised everything, marked everything.
So you were operating during the time that the big forestry companies had dealers,
Had what?
had dealerships,
Oh, yeah,
and
oh, yeah,
dealerships.
yes,
So you were competing with the dealers, I would think.
Well, the logging too, I mean, you know, but, yeah, I would bid, I'd send bids out. I mean, invitation to bid. And then I would take the high bid if it reached what I had for minimum.
Mm-hmm.
There's people that, well, Earl Smith was the same area that I believe it was.
Yep.
He hated me. He didn't want to bid on me. He wouldn't bid. If I wouldn't tell him what the minimum bid was, I wasn't going to tell him what the minimum bid was. If they didn't reach the minimum bid, I would say, you know, after the bid, I say, this is what the minimum bid was. You got either that or you don't buy. Most of the time, I reached the minimum.
Did you work with Earl Bars and the fellow that, let me see, Ed Knapp?
Yeah, Knapp, yeah, but Earl Bars not much, but the
How about George Peak?
George Peak, yeah, he was a big deal in it. Now I did a lot of work for the Peak family too.
You did?
Yeah.
That was the first company I worked for,
Yeah.
Georgia Timberlands.
Yeah, they had timberland, you know, particularly down there, right up county in that area.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were up there around Macon too. So I worked all over from coast to coast, really. They did work for Biden family up in South Carolina, and they took, I forgot what the acre was now, tremendous, beautiful place. And did the appraisal. I did a lot of appraisal work too, you know, after I started, several years after I started. And I got involved with in other words, mine was the highest appraisal, the others were considerably under me, but we wound up in, on the West Coast, that's
On the West Coast?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah. But I did a good bit of work out there too. And see, Alton Box, when they took over, they wanted me to go be woodland manager. I don't know. I'm not going to work for somebody else. So
What company was that?
Alton Box,
Oh.
out of Pretoria. They bought which company? Container? Continental Can, whichever one they bought. Of course, they had a mill up in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And they bought land out in the West Coast. But I told them I didn't want them, they had got me, I've been involved in a lot of stuff. They got me wanted me to be the woodland manager. And I said, no, you know, procurement and everything. So I gave him a list of 3 names and he hired Art Grissom.
That's interesting. So you appraised wood on the West Coast? Is that what you did on the West Coast? Did you?
Yeah.
All that big wood?
And some of it, yeah. I didn't do a whole lot of appraisal, I did, but the South Carolina stuff, somehow or another got involved in it. I wasn't praising, but I've done a good bit of work on the West Coast anyway. We still do. We got a ranch for manager up down there.
Oh. In California?
No, it's in Montana.
Oh.
But it's owned by a Frenchman.
So you're not really retired?
I am, but not, yeah.
That's good. I hope to do a little bit of
They
something.
won't let me stay at the house. After 61 years, she's had enough of me.
That's wonderful.
59, 58, isn't it? 59.
58.
58.
That's Betty, his lovely wife, in the background. I have down here prices of pulpwood in the 1940s, just for the record.
What now?
Prices of pulpwood. Just to give some historical perspective to
Oh, anywhere from $3 to $5 a cord. I mean, you're talking about it on the stone.
Yeah. And what about hardwood?
Hardwood, that's the cheaper side, $3. They told me when I was in college at the university that one day I would see hardwood worth more than pine pulpwood. And sure enough, over on the Alabama River in that area, in the 70s, pulpwood got to be, hardwood pulpwood got to be worth more than pine.
And in many cases nowadays, that's the case.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, that's what I said, it's ideal, you know, according to what the mill is.
Yeah.
But it was unbelievable what the price was again.
I have down here relationships with forest industry companies. I know your main part of your career was with consultants, but you put out for bid whatever
Yes.
tracts of timber that you were working for with your consultants. But with let me see, what was in Cedar Springs? Great Southern was in Cedar Springs at that
Great
time.
Southern, Cedar Springs, yeah.
And then Alabama Craft, Georgia Craft,
Yeah.
Owens, Illinois, somewhere
Yes,
around
sir.
there.
Right. St. Mary's was the best one I worked with. I had, just for example, I was shipping anywhere 12 to 15 cars a week. This was while I was in school or right afterwards. And it was going to St. Mary's. And St. Mary's quit, for some reason, quit taking wood, you know, for a week or two. They shipped my cars to Union Camp, and where I've been getting 18, 20 cars of the car, I was getting 11 or 12. I mean, it really killed me. I had about 20 cars up there. But there was a difference in the company. Yeah.
Did you have any relationships with the Langdale Company?
Well, Langdale? Yeah, that's, while I was on the Forest Commission, Langdale would come by and pick me up. Because they go to Atlanta up after the Forest Commission meeting. But I was with the young Langdale, which is it, anyway.
Wesley?
Huh? Wesley, isn't it?
Wesley?
Yeah, Wesley, yeah. I saw him at Amelia Island last week. He told me he still had one article I did on how to operate upon primarily ethics upon the wall land, and he looked at it every day.
Very good.
Yeah, but I was in Judge Langdale, old man, and Lester Vaughn, who bought a large tract of plantation just above Pretoria where I live, first live. I met with him and Lester and Judge Langdale a couple of times. We've had good relationship with them over the years.
Yeah. I've got a videotape of Mr. Harley.
Yeah. Well, Holly was the one I went to Atlanta with mainly.
Yeah. Speaking in 2001 on naval stores.
Yes, sir.
So I've got that down already, and that's in the archives. And boy, he could tell some tales about naval stores and turpentine camps and all that.
Oh, yeah.
I imagine there were turpentine camps around when you were working in North Florida and all that.
Well, when my grandfather lived out in La Crosse, Florida, he was depot agent there. The little train ran from anyway, ran up to Bell, from Stark, Florida up to Bell, and came back every day. And maybe less than a quarter of a mile from my house, where I lived in summer with him, working on the package, there was a turpentine still. And the turpentine quarters were right in front of the house, right across the field in front of the house.
Yep.
Yeah, I knew about them. Yes, sir.
So that was some crazy times on weekends there. I've heard about the turpentine camps too. And I've also heard that, you know, according to Mr. Harley, the guys that were working the turpentine liked doing it.
Yeah.
They like working in the woods. They like the independence of it and all that. So that's one of my interests in history, to document that as much as possible, because it's gone now. And it was such a big part of forestry, and it was a big part of the South from like the end of the Civil War up until the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, particularly when I go to game for lacrosse sometime and went a hunt with my uncle, hunting through those turpentine woods. It was great. And it was just, and we used turpentine, we get those the butts left, and that was the great powerwood because it was. But yes, it really definitely was. And that turpentine camp, as I say, the quarters are right across it. Of course, the steel was over there, but the quarters right across the field from us.
Yeah.
And those some kind of men. I had to pull it in, you know, with my hand, and got a cup and poured it out in the cups. They improved as it went along. In fact, when I worked for the state of Florida, when I was working on Blackwater, I had a plan, and they let me institute it, where I would mark the trees that the turpentine, it would be cut in 5 years, because it didn't want to slow up the growth of the other trees that were going on. But those 5 years that we're going to cut in 5 or 6 years, I'd mark them for facing. And we could, you know, could have continuous long running operation there.
So then who worked the trees?
Whoever the turpentine people were.
Oh, okay.
I'm trying to remember where that turpentine still was out of Munson there. It may have been right in Munson, I'm not sure, I forgot. Nursery was right there in Munson.
Another fellow that I interviewed was Jim L. Gillis.
Yeah.
And he was real big in turpentine. As a matter of fact, his company is called the Soperton Naval Stores.
Yeah.
And that's where I interviewed him.
Yeah.
And he said, he has a picture of himself in 2001 with the last load of turpentine, of oleoresin in the barrels on a truck. That was the last one.
That turpentine still, I was talking about that when I was working with Blackwater, was up at Bruton.
Bruton, Alabama?
Yeah, right around Bruton. See, Blackwater was on 20, well, part of the forest was up close to Bruton, it was all in Florida.
Yeah.
But Bruton was where we went to church.
Were you there at the very beginning of the formation of the Association of Consulting Foresters? Were you one of the pioneers?
Well, no, they started in 45, I think. And Wallace Benz was a forester there in Albany. And I was, after the 64 or 5 before I joined, or something like that. But I told Wallace, we need somebody we can talk to, all these other fellows in business themselves and for the government, and we need to be looking after longer. And where can I find somebody? And he referred me then to the ACF, Association of Consulting. And the first meeting that I went to was, I think, in 1965, wasn't it? And it was in the West Coast.
Oh.
But, I mean, I went to some local meetings around, but I mean the annual meeting. And we've missed 2 annual meetings since then, I think.
So what is the purpose of ACF?
Is to try to, to influence the quality of services that forests do. And that's been my concern and intent ever since I started in business, is to find out what the landowner wanted and help him get there. Now there was a few things that I would not do. For once, I wouldn't sell timber based on diamond level. You know, used to cut a lot of timber based on a diameter size. sell everything from say 10 inches up or whatever. I would never do that. But a few things like that, and I just, but other than that, the purpose was to help the landowner get where he wanted to go and manage it for him. It was his, how he wanted to manage it was his business. Like a lot of the plantations we were primarily concerned with quail, birds, stuff like that. But, and then, you know, the transfer of ownership to children and whatnot. Help with that.
Let's see. I've been involved with SAF since 1978, and I started out as a secretary in 1983.
Yeah.
And the ethics situation with ethics and reviewing of ethics and changing of the ethics designations, the canons and all that has always been a big, I don't know how to say it, a big concern, a big problem. It shouldn't be a problem, but it was, and I think it was more the influence of environmentalists who said foresters have to be more ethical in how they are stewards of the land, treat the land, and they got to make sure they have the resource in mind as they go through it. Somewhere in the 1980s and early 1990s, ACF and SAF split on ethics.
Yes, sir.
And really, I'm going to say something and I'll have you react to it. I think it's because they put the forest by itself and the public, the concerns of the public, in the way of managing the wood for managing timber for private landowners. And I think that's where they split. Could you talk a bit about ethics and?
Well, that's just what I said to start with. There, landowner's got his investment, he's got his, and he knows what he wants. And a lot of cases, we always try to get somebody to decide, you know, to have a plan for what they're going to do. But come along and government tell you what you're going to do with environmental organization, tell you what you're going to do with your land, is just like coming in and tell you how you're going to run a business. Mm-hmm. Now, there's things that I always was against polluting the streams and doing things like that. But then that was my ethic. And there's certain things I wouldn't do for landowners that was part of that. But if he wanted to clear cut his land and start over again or whatnot, they know that was his business. And if he wanted to do natural regeneration, that was his business too, you know. It just things like that. And a lot of people that own timberland, particularly then, and that's just still so, but this is their security. And if they have an emergency in the family, they can cut some timber, cut the timber, whatever. So, you know, it's just like running a business. Everybody running a business got a different goal and how they gonna get there.
I agree.
And well, they just, you know, when they had came out with these water rules on creeks and stuff like that and all.
BMPs and SMZs?
I was greatly involved. I mean, I don't have a problem with that up to a certain extent, but when they first came in, you know how we had that big meeting in Macon, I was heavily involved in that. But we had hundreds of folks there that protested some of the things that they were required.
So that's when they first set the BMPs and got public opinion on them?
Yeah, what was that?
81 was around when Georgia set BMPs.
Well, but this was, you know, they had some real severe restrictions, and then about that it makes sense. And we met up, and we had a big meeting in Macon, had hundreds of people. And I was really involved in that.
Okay.
But I think the landowner, as long as he's not polluting the stream, or otherwise obviously damaging the environment, because look at what had happened. It was us, the landowners, managing it, handling it. What happened over the years? We still got more timber.
We do.
Right now, right over here, in Savage County, where I was raised, everything we had was in crops, everything we could put crops on. And that was all over. Now, it's the other way around. We got everything in timber, but 70% of it, our land now is in timber. And one time, 70% was in agriculture.
What do you see, Eley, as the long-term timber resource in the southeast with the growth of the big cities out into the rural lands and basically the effect of forest industry selling their land off to TMOs and REITs and large landowners? Do you see that projected ahead 50 years we're still going to have as much land and timber now that's actually under forest management? Or just tell me what your thoughts are long-term on what's going to happen to forestry in the southeast as far as the timberland resource. What do you think?
I think one thing, timberland resource is, going to the larger ownerships and whatnot with the REITs all on them, and of course the pulp mill's been out of business. How much land they got left? They're going to have a small percentage of what they had. I think we're going to have a different situation, but a lot of these landowners are, buying up there for recreation. Small landowners, whatnot. And these REITs are buying them to manage the timber on them, to get the return from timber. So I just, it's hard to say, but I think there's a lot of other things. Free enterprise, and of course you need some restrictions. I admit that, and I agree with that. But free enterprise has gotten us where we are.
There's a concern among some people in industry that with the cellulosic ethanol plant going in Soperton, and the energy for wood, I won't say mill, but concerns of going in like down in Albany, down near there's Georgia Power has a plant in Albany that's going to...
They're supposed to be plant Mitchell, they're supposed to be, and I'll tell you one thing about that. I had a corn grove, Frank and I did, right under the plant Mitchell. They were defoliating our trees with all that smoke. We went to court. We got some basic payment for that, and they agreed to go to a lower sulfur content coat.
Oh.
But I don't think they stay with that very long. But now they are talking about going, well, they are supposed to be definitely within the next 2 or 3 years. But your problem with burning fuel and wood is to transfer it, get it to the mill. It costs so much to transfer it because you can't load of wood does not weigh like a load of coal.
Yeah. And the question that comes up is whether there's going to be enough fiber around for the pulp mills, for the wood for energy like the Georgia Power, and then the cellulosic ethanol plants that are going to come up, and then the pellets that we're making and shipping over to Europe so they can meet their concerns with the Kyoto Protocol. Yeah. Is there going to be enough wood to go around?
Well, I think there's probably going to be a limit on it somewhere. I don't know, but they're shipping all the wood out of New Zealand and Australia and those other countries, and a lot of going in pellet. But there's a lot of things that we can grow for, like for the crop fields and all, or whatnot, and various vegetation that they can, woody vegetation, that we can increase our yield on a whole lot. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not smart enough to know what that.
Yeah, well, not too many people know. I mean, this is the question right now.
But it's just like ethanol. It takes twice the energy to convert it does to convert wood.
Yeah.
To convert corn, to wood. And of course, the corn, they're starving people to death because they're burning.
That's right. Yeah. I'm just getting your.
There's no easy answer to it.
No, there isn't.
But I think with the government regulations like coming in, they can make it worse. And what we've gone through all these years, you know, they're talking about how we want to decimate our forest, and the government takes the forest over, the big acreages they've got, and poorly manage it.
Yep.
You just think about the yield that come off of those things.
Well, in this is my own opinion here, is the government in managing their national forests just bent their will to the environmentalists over the issues of the northern spotted owl, the red cockaded woodpecker,
Yeah.
and they just locked up all the resource
Well,
for political reasons. So I agree, it's not managing the resource for the resource's sake, they're managing it for political sake.
That's right.
And that's a concern I would have if they got into the business of owning more than they did.
Yes.
Yeah. That's just me now.
Well, that's what I'm doing.
Okay. Let me see. Why don't you just talk a little bit about your future thoughts on consulting foresters? Do you think the business of consulting forestry is going to change much in the future? Or
Well, it's going to have to change as the market change and whatnot. And we're going to have to figure out how to manage land to fit, you know, new conditions. But I don't, of course, the government and environmentalists are going to take it over anyway, take it away from the consultants. So. But I think the consultants are very definite, they're very definite partners.
Mm-hmm.
They've got to if things continue to go, and we continue to have a free enterprise. What does government manage? Well.
What has government managed well over the years? Yeah, good question, Edith. I'm not going to attempt to answer that right now.
Okay.
We'll just raise the question here in 2009 and then see where we can answer that in a few years. When I was talking with Bonner Jones, he said that you and he, besides having a few drinks together, went over the test that was given to registration of foresters,
Yes.
and you helped rewrite that.
Yes.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, we talk about it, but I don't know what. I just.
You helped set up some of the questions?
Huh?
You helped write some of the questions, or went over some of the questions?
Yeah, but I don't know what they were particularly. But what I was concerned is the ethics involved in some of the stuff, and taking the authority away from the landowner and saying you can only do this, and putting it in the hands of government or somebody else outside controlling it. That's what. I don't remember exactly what I remember the discussion.
Yeah, well, basically, I just went over this with Bonner, otherwise I wouldn't have known any of it. What Bonner said is that the original test was very academic, and they took a sample of foresters in and gave them the test, and they scored about 30% out of 100. So it was not practical at all, and that where your involvement with him was getting practical questions in there that the forester would know who was actually practicing forestry. And that's how it was rewritten back in the late 70s or early 80s, something like that.
That's what we need to do is to find out the sort of judgment of any ethics.
This case that I have over here that I printed off that you were involved with, it's Forbes versus the United States. And just for the record, it's kind of interesting. This was a landowner in Macon County who had sold timber off of their ranch in 61, 64, 65, and 66. They were principally involved in raising livestock, growing peanuts and pecans, and providing quail hunting. And F W advised them to cut their timber on some land that the beavers had set up dams for, and they were, ruining the timber over a long time with the beaver ponds. So they cut they did a pretty good clear cut, gained about $25,000,
Yeah.
and the government treated it as ordinary income, and they went to court to have it classified as capital gains.
Yeah.
And why don't you tell the story from there?
I don't remember.
Oh, well, they lost.
Huh?
They lost.
Yeah, the landowner lost.
The landowner lost.
Yeah, capital gains thing.
Yeah. But you're listed in here as advised the Malachi Ranch Partnership due to damage caused by beavers, it would be desirable to dispose of it.
Yes,
And then they went into some details.
yes.
But so this was a case of just setting up some precedents that a landowner who is occasionally cutting wood but not in the business of
Yeah.
growing timber cannot claim it
Yeah,
as
cannot
capital
claim it,
gains.
right. That was-
Is this one of the first cases that I came up with, you think?
I don't know, you know, I've been involved in a good bit of, one back then particularly, but been involved in a good bit of litigation.
So you were called as an expert witness? Or
Yeah, yeah.
very good. SAF.
We've won some of them, but.
Yep. What has been your service, as you would call it, to SAF over the years? What positions have you held, and what have you done with SAF?
Gosh, I don't remember, I've been locally, I've been involved as chairman and whatnot, but I've attended a lot of them meetings.
Were you ever like CSAF chair, Southeastern Society chair, Georgia Division chair?
I may have been in Georgia Division, I don't remember, really. I've been much involved in those things.
Yeah, I probably should know that, and I shouldn't ask you that, but
That's all right.
I'm sure you have.
I don't.
All right, anything else you want to add to your legacy here?
No, nothing except I still believe in the landowner man his land. And I do believe there's some restrictions, you know. You don't want to deteriorate the environment, but I don't think cutting trees and all and whatnot. And I think the fact that you've got different ownerships and all, you're going to have different things. So you've got a varied use as you go, a varied management across the board. And I think that's, you look at where we were with the forest and look at where we are now. And it's pretty evident that worked.
It worked.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Mr. Eley Frazer.
Good.